Oh, I was just talking about how, like, looking at, like, where you deliver value and, like, where you get profit, like, and how do you structure things where, like, the incentive, you're looking at both near-term, mid-term, and long-term behavior.
Right.
And like, previously, before that, I wasn't thinking about how I structured that.
Yeah.
I was making these just assumptive, oh, people know, so they'll do.
Yeah.
And instead,
Well, you realize too, most people are not sales oriented, right? So incentivizing them with commissions or, it doesn't do the same thing as just, hey, I'm going to incentivize you with this. You don't have to earn it. But in order to keep this person, we got to.
Yeah. I mean, well, you start with, like, what's the value we promise? Like, why are we really doing this? Because if it's to make a ton of money, you don't start a fitness company in Muncie. That's not your move. You know what I mean? It's about passion. It's about results. You care about people. You want to see people get better. You want to see people in your community get better that you see at the grocery store, you see at church, you see at the businesses you work with. And when you do, I think I've grown to realize, like, well, if we start with the value in the customer experience, what do they really, really, really value? How do we map backward from that so that that my coaches are getting the education experience, et cetera, that gets that value quicker?
Yeah.
How do we move it back so that we get the right type of athletes that are looking for the right thing? Like some of the questions you were asking on the phone earlier. Like, are people ready for a journey? Instead of like, I need a new place to exercise. I'm like, well, you're going to hate this place.
Yeah, because this isn't exercise. This is masochism.
Yeah, a little bit, right? But I think, I mean, if it was so easy to get from point A to point B,
everybody would do it.
Exactly. And it's not point A to point B, it's point A to Z squared.
Yeah.
But people have it in their mind. It's like, well, this is just going to be simple. I'm just going to clean up this stuff and just do all that stuff. And I'm like, you way overvalue self-discipline and willpower because they are extremely exhaustible.
Well, it's like motivation. Motivation's cheap. It doesn't last long.
Oh.
You got to build discipline to get to that next step.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it's discipline and willpower are also muscles. And I know, like, you're a Jocko fan. I am as well.
Jocko, yeah.
And he talks about, like...
Turn that around.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
That's not Jocko today.
That's right. It's all right. It's all right. If he's listening, that's great. That's be the best podcast ever.
Yeah, right.
But I think that it is a muscle. It can grow. Some people, like, underestimate it, but, like, you can build it up. But I don't know. I like this. I had a philosophy I used in a while. I wouldn't recommend it. You kind of grow up and you do dumb things when you're training and, like, reading Flex magazine before, like, trying to get big.
It's going, like, hey, I can look like that naturally.
Yeah, or it's like shock training is what I called it, where I'm like, well, I'm gonna run, I'm gonna do this thing. So I would go do the thing I was training for on the first day of training, and then afterwards, I'm like, well, it can never possibly feel that terrible again. Yeah. And for 4 or 5 days, I have to recover from that stupidity. But I think there is some method to the madness sometimes when you're doing that with either self-awareness, self-growth, handling hard conversations, and salespeople, like making cold calls, making phone calls. What are you going to do? Make 100 when? Starting right now. What? I'm like, why? I'm like, you will be a different person at the end of today when you look at just the ratios that show up on the other end. It's like, oh my gosh, I left like 98% voicemails. I had 2% conversations, so I had 100 calls. I had 10 conversations with people.
You realize you're going to capitalize on those 10 calls.
It is, and it's like you're looking at the inventory. You've shared before in a previous podcast about, like, scaling and efficiency and et cetera of those things. But if you go back to what we were just sharing earlier about, like, well, I'm ready to make a change. When people start making that assumption, they're not speaking from where they're currently at. They're speaking from this idealized result and thinking, oh, me knowing that I want to do that and the few little bits about how means I'm almost there.
Right.
And I'm like, that is the worst starting point. Even coaching someone I was coaching yesterday in my leadership, wearing my leadership consultant hat, is I was talking about, I'm like, you are an optimist. Oh yeah, it's really great. I'm like, that's your main problem.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? That's been one of my things. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's leading you to be miserable and disappointed most days. And I'm like, I need you to foster a level of cynicism.
Yeah.
With when you're reaching out, when you're doing your work, when you're dealing with your coworkers and your employees, and cynicism. I'm like, yeah, you need to substantially lower the bar for your expectations for everybody else so that you can be better.
Yeah.
You're out trying to chase these feelings for everybody and everything, and it's exhausting you, and you're getting frustrated and angry. And I'm like, so that's what optimism is breeding for you.
Right.
But instead, when I realized, when I'm like, we can use the cold call example again, I'm going to make a bunch of cold calls today. What are you expecting? I'm like, to leave some phenomenal voicemails all day long. All day long, and to get hung up on if I can't master that first 5 seconds. of engaging somebody.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a kind of that counterpoint you look at when you're like, all right, well, how serious are you
Exactly.
about moving forward?
Well, because it's going to hurt and it's going to suck and you're going to be hungry. You're going to be tired. You're going to be sore. You're going to be more than sore. You know, you're like, what does that look like when you're at that point? What's keeping you here?
Well, I think the sore muscles, sore body is like, I think, lower stakes. I think it's sore ego is where the bigger problems.
Oh, I always tell people, they go, can't you get hurt doing CrossFit? That's I get that. Or isn't CrossFit dangerous? Or, I'm like, it only is if you let your ego get in the way. Because if you listen to the coaches and ask the coaches, because we're also coaching 20 people, so we're always, we're not necessarily thinking, Johnny needs to do XYZ until he comes and asks. It's like, Johnny, you're not trying ring muscle ups your first day in class, right? Like we're gonna start you in our fitness track. We're gonna build you up, teach you the scaling methods to get to those ring muscle ups 6 months from now. If that's a goal. Some people it's not a goal. It's just
Right.
It's just like a snatch, right? Not everybody needs to snatch. That is a calculated risk that people decide to take if they want to compete in the sport of CrossFit or if they just want to learn a new skill. It's like walking on my hands. I don't need to walk on my hands for life. Honestly, it could be arguably not even, it go against what I need to do in life. But I want to learn how to walk on my hands because I want to compete better, within CrossFit, within the sport. And I still can't walk on my hands. Probably one of the only CrossFit gym owners that can't. So
Everyone's got their Achilles heel when
their
it comes
kryptonite.
up. You're watching the open come out, like it's coming, and then it's the fourth workout. I think I made it fifth one. It's like there it is, and we've coupled it with something you're good at.
Exactly.
For me, it's handstand push-ups, and then they always. I'm a great deadlifter, so it's like they always pair them together.
They always
I'm like,
pair 'em together.
Son of a bitch. Like,
Our last team or partner competition that we did at the old building before we moved, legacy partner games. My partner was David Crane. Dave's a beast at handstand. I mean, he's a beast at pretty much everything. Dude's been doing CrossFit for like 12 years now, and he's 43.
That's my age. Yep.
Yeah. So Dave, sorry if I aged you a little bit because I can't remember if he's 42 or 43, but he was my partner, and we teamed up, and I felt bad because like deadlift wise, we're flying, right? Like we're smoking the deadlifts, and it's like a 15-12-9 deadlift handstand push up. And we get over to the handstand push-ups, and we knew going into it this was going to be the worst event. And I kick up on the wall, and I get like 3 handstand push-ups in. He's like, "You good?" He's looking over at me upside down, like, "Can we go? Can we go? Can we go?" And I'm like kicking down and doing singles by the end of it. Yeah. And we fly through the 12 deadlifts, but we couldn't get past that because it's like the 15 handstand push-ups took the entire 8 minutes or whatever the time cap was.
Well, I partnered. I had a partner. Shout out to Skylar Finnerty. Is my guy. He trains at 3K. Was up with us at Muncie CrossFit for a while, and he came down and was on their team that went to regionals. And we did a competition early on when he was really starting to go from like really good to like regional ready guy.
That's awesome.
And we were blasting through everything, and he's carrying like most of the load. I was there just kind of like eye candy,
Float
whatever.
forward.
And he's like, we got done, and like I just couldn't get up on the bar enough on this. I could tell he was frustrated. And I got off the rig and we got to the side, and like he was so mad. He's like, dude, I'm like, and I'm like, hey, dude, Skylar, hey, listen, I'm sorry we're not more first. Okay, and we ended up getting to the finals. Like we didn't have to go through the finals to win, and I'm just like, but that was one of the stories we tell each other. Yeah. When it's just like, gosh, like, hey, calibrate. Like we're gonna be fine. But he's such a stinking competitor. And I'm just sitting. I'm like, hey, this was what was.
We knew this going into it. Yeah.
I'm me, and you're you, and it's just not like I know cloning you would have been a better partner.
We all have our skill sets, and BJ's is just being the eye candy for
being
the team.
The eye candy. I bring the humor. That'll be my job.
Yeah,